Where are you at kind of with the business operation side of it?
I have changed my process as far as sales, because in the beginning, we were one of the only people out there. So they just showed up and they were like, yeah, we want it. Then I learned, recently that you actually have to sell the wedding business. And when you do, it makes it so much easier. It really does. So we've learned to listen to our clients more and give them what they want and sell that to them when they walk through the door.
All right, Wendy, welcome to the Venue RX podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to discuss your venue, 1812 Hitching Post. You guys are located in North Carolina, correct?
Yeah, we're kind of centrally located in the foothills of the mountains. So it's where it's still nice and cool and where the weather's perfect, even with all the other stuff going on around the world.
Wow. Explain to me a little bit about the seasons there. Is it, are you getting snow? Do you have really hot summers? Kind of help me understand a little bit more of this, what your seasonality looks like.
Sure. We rarely get snow. We have about 6 weeks of really cold in the wintertime, right around Christmas that happened last year when everybody was frozen. We had that 6 weeks and that was it. Our winter was over. So lately our seasons have stretched out. Spring is longer, fall is longer, summer's shorter, winter's shorter. But we definitely, we're green. It's very, very green here. We've had plenty of rain, but hopefully not too much on wedding days.
Yeah.
It's a real environment. It doesn't get too hot except for that, 2 or 3 weeks where it gets too hot for everybody.
I was going to say, probably stretching out spring and fall means stretching out your wedding season, right?
Exactly. And the growing, the flowers, North Carolina, I'm looking out the windows right now. North Carolina is just so beautiful. Like right now, everything is blooming. We have myrtle trees blooming and things. And in the spring, it's just so gorgeous. So that's what we love about this area is the diversity of the plants and the greenery and the garden atmosphere of the home is historic and beautiful, but the brides really want to be outside. They want to be out in nature and out with the gorgeous trees and things.
Yeah. Wait, say again.
I'm sorry, shade is important.
Shade. Yes. Well, and let's dive into the venue a little bit. Like it's a historic venue. Could you give me a little bit of the background and history on the property?
Yeah. It was built in 1812, but we actually have a tree here that is 375 years old. It's the largest oak tree in Iredell County, which is the name of the county we're in. So it's this huge tree that we have all this shade for people for their weddings. But the venue was built in 1812. It was lived in by a doctor. We have all kinds of stuff in the history books. It was a 2-story log cabin. And then the next family came along. They added a middle section. They were called the Turner family, and the town of Turnersburg was named after them, which is a historic town. We live in Turnersburg, but not really because you can't mail anything to Turnersburg. So anyway, the Turner family, turns out I'm distantly related to that family, which I didn't know until after I had lived here for a few years. I'm also a genealogist, and I was out in cemeteries looking around, and I was like, hey, this looks familiar, this name. And it was my grandmother's grandfather's brother.
Wow.
So his daughter married a guy who built the place.
Huh. So
yeah. But
did you buy the property? Did you because you are related, you discovered this relation, but then was it something that was like in the family or not really? You came across it?
It was not in the family, but back in the day, I'm from Ohio. And my parents took this road to Florida. As all people from Ohio go to Florida, they go through North Carolina. And before the interstates, we went by this house. And then years later, I moved in this area in 1991. And I met my husband at Staples. He actually owned this house. And he invited me up here to help him with some web design work. I pulled in the driveway and I said, didn't there used to be a hitching post out front? And he said, yeah, but it hasn't been there since 1971. How do you know that? I said, I remember it from my childhood. So I remember this beautiful yellow house and the horses outdoors. And because they had Olympic quality jumping horses here on the property, the senator that owned it then. So, that just stuck in my mind as a kid. And here he owned the house. He'd already lived here for 15 years when I met him. We got together, Then I found out I was related to the people who lived here. So I just felt like it was meant to be. And that's part of the reason we became the Hitching Post as the name, because I was like, didn't there used to be a hitching post out front? So it was a horse farm.
What a remarkable story. And I mean, crazy how like everything came together like that. And there was like history, your heritage. How did you get into the wedding business? Like, other than the purchase the property, like, so you married your husband, the house was gorgeous, you remember the hitching post like that, but like, how did you decide, or when did you decide, hey, we're going to start doing weddings? Hey there, thanks so much for watching or listening. I wanted to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events. Common Sense Events is my company that professionally manages and operates venues all across the United States, and we're looking to work with a couple more venues this year. If you own a venue in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, we are looking to work with you. Our company comes in and takes care of the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire all of the employees, we manage all the employees, and primarily our agreements are based off of revenue share models. So it's a very affordable way to have your venue professionally managed. And this is especially good if you're thinking about retiring, selling your venue, but maybe you don't want to sell the land, or you're looking for another management option than you currently have in place. If you're interested in this, please reach out by email at venues@cseventservices.com, or you can also click the link in the description of this video or podcast. We'd love to hear from you and look forward to seeing if there's a way for us to serve you.
So like many people, we were like, we can't afford this place. It's too big. There's just two of us. What are we going to do to support ourselves at this location? And he loved it. I loved it. So we talked about all the different options. We weren't married yet, and we were looking for a place to get married ourselves. And back then, 20 years ago, it was a church or whatever. There weren't really places, venues like there are today. We had 2 venues in the Charlotte area that we had heard of, and we went and checked them out. We thought, well, this is pretty cool. Why don't we do this? So that's what we did. So we started planning our own wedding, and then that got waylaid. Just went ahead and did other weddings. In the meantime, 2 years later, we got married. So we were already doing weddings here before we got married.
I'm curious. So you have a ton of experience. It sounds like how long have you been doing weddings at this point?
20 years.
Wow. So over 20 years, you've been through a couple of different economic cycles, just in terms of like, financial crises, the real estate stuff, like some of the different stuff that's happened. And then most recently, of course, COVID. I'm excited to talk to you about how you've seen the industry change. Because like you said, when you were first looking around, it was like you go to the church, you get married, and maybe it's like a potluck afterwards, or some sort of like more social thing connected to the church. And
exactly.
Now it's the environment.
Yeah. And I'm from Ohio originally, where not everybody had the same kind of church upbringing. So sometimes people did get married in their backyards and things like that. We thought of it as get married in your backyard. We started out with our front living room. We put stained glass in the windows, made a little tiny chapel, and made it church-like. And our first weddings were in this indoors. Even in July, we were having indoor weddings because that's what we thought people wanted. Then this wonderful girl from California, she emailed me and she goes, I just love that yellow house. I want to get married outside. We have 80 people coming. And so her wedding was August 24th, 2003. So our first outdoor wedding was almost 20 years ago. And she was just great. She loved it. They had beautiful energy. I did not meet them till the day of the wedding. So we planned everything through email. Everything happened. And after the wedding, her mother gave me some advice, said, you need to charge more, which was the best advice. And then we had some wonderful pictures to get started. Also I was a web designer, so that helped, because when you have that experience, you can, put it out there. So we started right away with focusing on the internet and getting people here from other places.
I was going to ask, what is your professional background, and did that lead into weddings? It doesn't sound like you did with the web design background, but like, give me a little bit of the kind of the shift.
I've been everything. I've been, as far as professional background, I started in restaurant management and things like that. So, and then when I had my children, my husband and I this was a previous husband, we started our own businesses trying to keep things going. So basically I've been entrepreneurial kind of background. But my whole family is very driven, and they're all around here. We like to be together. And that's one of the reasons that we've always envisioned this big thing where our whole family could be together. So the family home has been like the heart and soul of our business, is to make this available for our family. It's not just a business. It's our life, and it's the future for my children. It's everything. It's our investment. So, we need to hold on to it and make it good.
Totally. That makes sense. And really neat that you're able to do that, kind of have the family homestead, that kind of like idea of having a place for your family, but then also you're able to share it with couples.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So 20 years ago, they say, I want to get right outside the house. I like how the woman said you should raise your prices after the wedding was over. That
was bride's mom. But yeah, so we rented a tent. We rented the tables. We rented the chairs. We put everything in the yard. We did the catering. We cooked it in our kitchen because we didn't know you couldn't. So back then we were just kind of doing house style. We got the cake from somebody else, and that was one of her advice was, do not use this baker again. So the cake was very dry, and that's what I do remember from that wedding, but everything else was perfect. So then 3 days before the wedding, Hurricane Isabel came through, and the tent was on the lawn, and it was pouring down rain, and my husband was like, that tent is going to get ripped up and fly across the lawn. So he and I and a worker went out there, and we were hanging on to this tent. And I looked over at him thinking, he's not going to let me do this wedding business anymore. And he was laughing. He was laughing because we looked so ridiculous. And I thought, well, everything's going to be okay. And it was. From that point on, you just kind of have to like go with it, and you have to commit, I think. And that's,
Well, help me understand the evolution of your business after that, from hanging on to that tent, right? Like, what were some of the next steps and next things that you did?
I think it was photography based primarily. In the beginning, we tried to get a lot of pictures of the weddings that we were doing. We had a friend who was an amazing photographer, and he helped us out significantly. At the same time, I was still an RN. I was a nurse at the time. So when you ask my background, I was also a nurse. And then my grandmother died, and she left us an inheritance. And so we just kind of jumped in the business, and all that happened right there at the end of 2003. It all happened at the same time. So it just meant, we just felt like this was meant to be. We had a wonderful New Year's Eve wedding, and the grandfather of the bride was playing his horn at midnight and stuff. And it just, the magic and the love that comes through from the couples and things. And that's really what we, it's just like drives us. It's the groove that you want to always be in. It's the happiness, it's the love, it's the joy. And the house seems to feed off of it. It seems to have this energy that loves people. So we've been really lucky.
Do you live on property?
We do.
Very cool. Was that ever a challenge figuring out, okay, how do we have these groups of people come in, but then this is our private residence?
Totally. And the Ring video doorbell helped that a lot. Technology has helped. We used to have people that just walked in, they would just walk in thinking it was a venue, not a house. And if they're not expected, might not be dressed or something. So that was always, but we got over that very early. We had some really, really bad appointments in the early days. Some things that you want to write in a book about the horrible things that happened while somebody was here, and they're like, see you later. So you just kind of go with the flow. Fortunately, a lot of people have said, this is what we want for our wedding and things. And so that's worked well for us. And a lot of the people are local. We ended up being a place that attracted a lot of local people. So that was great.
Yeah, that. I'm going to ask you about that in just a little bit when I ask more about marketing, but I'm curious kind of more about your progression in the business. Like you said, you focused on photography early on. Did you add on systems like a CRM system, for managing clients? Do you have that now? Like, where are you at kind of with the business operation side of it?
Regretfully, I have tried, and I need to obviously hire somebody to do this. I actually did hire somebody, but that didn't work out either. So the CRM thing, I just haven't gotten on board with that. I still do everything. I answer every email independently. I have changed my process as far as sales, because in the beginning, we were one of the only people out there. So they just showed up and they were like, yeah, we want it. Then I learned, recently that you actually have to sell the wedding business. And when you do, it makes it so much easier. It really does. So we've learned to listen to our clients more and give them what they want and sell that to them when they walk through the door. So that, that was one of my areas where I felt like I'm not really a salesperson. I just want to decorate and I want to take pictures. So, the sales thing kind of came to me slowly, and listening to podcasts helped with that.
Yeah. It's interesting in this industry, even though there is a sales component to it, it's very consultative, because most everyone, like, you're not reaching out to a list of cold prospects, and calling, and it's not as much of that. It's more of like people are reaching out to you to say, hey, I'm interested in your venue, and you're just following up. So that totally makes sense. You said listening to your clients, and I noticed, I just was looking at the website, you do have all-inclusive weddings. It sounds like, from a certain sort of sense, you were doing all-inclusive weddings from the beginning with doing, the catering, you said you outsourced the cake. Did you at any point go kind of fully blank canvas where everyone could bring in their own stuff? Or did you always have that component of inclusivity where you provided catering, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we even added an on-site commercial kitchen. We did try occasionally. It was one of our options. You can do your own thing, just rent the venue. One of the things we don't like about that is that we lose control over what is essentially our home. So, and it is historic, and, we don't want people, whatever. We'd rather put the stuff up, the decorations up, and take them down. So, and people would rather have us do it anyway. So they're happier that way. We also find that all-inclusive is what people are looking for when they come to us. So even though we offer that as an option, probably only 1 or 2 people a year take us up on the venue only kind of option. And on those weekends, I could go visit my grandchildren.
I like it. I'm curious then for that. So if someone is going to do an all-inclusive wedding there, are you personally or employees of yours doing the food and the catering, or are you outsourcing that to other companies?
We do everything. I am here personally for every wedding. I've been here for every wedding except for 3, all in the entire 20 years. And those 3 were elopements, and all 3 brides knew I wasn't going to be there ahead of time before they even booked the wedding. So I'm always there. We include the DJ every wedding. We include the sound. We include the catering. We include the decorations, any silver reusable things. So these days, people are more into that than fresh flowers, typically where we are. If they want fresh flowers, they bring them. So, but usually we have what they want. And so it's just so much easier. Nobody's cleaning up after the wedding. They don't have, mom and dad doing all this horrible thing. We even provide the bartender service. And in North Carolina, they have a brown bagging law where you can bring your own alcohol to weddings and private events. So the senator that used to live here actually wrote that brown bagging law. So we just let people bring in their own alcohol and stuff, although we do have a beer and wine permit as well.
Got it. But you supply the bartender. So when you say you supply the bartender, you supply the catering, are these your employees? Do you outsource? Like, how do you put that together? If someone was listening to this right now and they were like, gosh, that sounds so overwhelming. Like, how do they do something similar?
It is harder, in my opinion, to manage people that are running their own businesses than to manage your own employees. So for me, having everything on site, having that control, being able to walk to my commercial kitchen that's this far away, it's only the next building over. So there's always something I can have my hand in and be on top of, so that I'm able, maybe I'm micromanaging everything, but that's what I'm here to do. So I just feel like I'm here as their person to get everything done for them. So I'm the person behind that. That said, I'm bringing my daughter-in-law on next year to be the next in line. So,
pardon the interruption. I wanted to take a moment and share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it is a professional association custom built for venue owners and operators. We felt like there was a lack of resources, community, education, and networking available specifically for our industry. And so we recently started this association, and it's been growing by the day. We would love to extend an invite to you, so please click the link in the description or wherever you're watching this video, and we would love to welcome you into the community. But I was going to ask, for someone, if they're listening to this right now, they're considering getting into the wedding industry, and they don't have a venue yet, and they're trying to figure out how do I want to position myself? Do I want to be all-inclusive? Do I want to buy a venue? Do I want to build a venue, right? They're thinking about all these things. Do you think it's possible to have a successful venue and have a fully hands-off approach? Or really is the secret to your success the fact that you are there in person for all these weddings?
There are venues where you could have a hands-off approach if you had someone that you hired to do all that for you. There are venues that are more indoor situated where I think you can set everything up ahead of time. You can walk away, it's not that big of a deal. If the venue burns down, it's covered by insurance, that kind of thing. Not that would ever happen, but there are venues that you can do that with. If somebody wants to get into the business, I would say don't be that person, because there's so many corporate ownerships of venues like that it would be hard to compete with that kind of a venue. So if somebody is getting into the venue business and they don't have buckets of money behind them, then the more service you can offer people, I feel like the more value you are to your customer. That said, everybody's customers are different. You're talking about Utah, where you've got a venue on every corner. Texas, you've got so many things that are exactly the same. Do something to make you different. Even if it's the photography, even if you do a different style of photography. There are some venues in Asheville that specialize in unique individuals getting married. Somebody, if you're an offbeat bride is the way that you might put it, or a couple. So, sometimes the style can make the difference. Like Disney specializes in packages where you buy the princess wedding and you get this and it's all white, or you get this and it's all pink. So whatever you want, do that.
Yeah, totally. Customization to kind of stand out in the competition. I'm curious, and especially because you have been in the industry for a while and you have that experience, how have you seen competition change over the years?
I see two kinds of competition. I see the kind of people that say, well, we've got a barn, why don't we be a wedding venue? And other people that are doing it specifically because they are wedding as an industry and I want to get into the money. I don't see a lot of the people in the middle range where they're doing it for the love of what they're doing, and it's because it's the best purpose for their life. And that's what I would like to see more of, is more venues with a heart, I guess. More venues that are coming here because we love, and this is the best purpose for our life and for us to share with you. So that's, I don't see more of that kind of competition.
Got it. You're seeing more of the competition where someone says, oh, wow, weddings are a big business. We should get into that.
Yeah.
Totally.
They do, and it's great. They're doing great.
So, well, how, just in terms of like your local area, have you seen a lot more venues pop up than used to be? And when you see a new venue pop up, is that something that you're concerned about, or not too much because of your value proposition?
The venues that are the most successful venues around us have something special. Like there's a venue that races miniature horses near us. And they're a lot of fun for people. That's something special and unique to them. So those kind of venues that have popped up have been more successful. There's also some farm venues that have kind of gone down a little bit, and some people who thought they might be a venue, but then they're not maybe geared towards too many guests or something. They might have a reason that their venue isn't really succeeding too well. And I've had one woman that's called me and asked for a lot of advice, and I give her the advice and go, listen to this podcast. This is really it's like, well, no, do you think I should charge $2,500? I go, it's not about that. It's not about that price. It's about how you're going to sell it.
Yeah. Everything, including the feel, the heart that you have. Yeah. This is an interesting question to me because, I feel like, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, maybe, there have been a lot of people that have gotten into this industry. And then certainly with COVID, there are a lot of people that got out of the industry. And so it's interesting to me as we're kind of like in an economic cycle. Have you seen the industry be impacted by, let's say, like 2008, 2009, or other economic cycles that have happened in the similar way that things were impacted with COVID, or does it feel like completely new? I guess more specifically, I'm asking like the differences that you're seeing maybe now with maybe inquiries being a little slower, or maybe, bookings being more of a sales process, like you said, right? Versus other times in the wedding industry that you've experienced.
Our ideal client is somewhere in the 75 person range rather than 200, 250, something like that. I've seen weddings come down more in size. We do a lot of weddings around 40, 50, 60 people, which, might be a micro wedding. So the biggest change has been, as an all-inclusive property, we would make a bigger profit because we had more guests. Now we have less guests. So we have to decide, where can we make the profit somewhere else, or how can we give this person a value so we can still maintain the same kind of income? So that's been our biggest challenges. Do we step out of the weddings and do something else in addition to weddings, or do we, embrace this? When we were first in business, we took every wedding that came along, sometimes 3 a weekend, 4 a weekend, that kind of thing. And now we can't do that. It's just, it's not the best for the client. It's not the best for us. It's not the best for the property. So we like to only do 1 wedding a day, that kind of thing. So we just, we need to figure out how to make that profitable. So if you give people more services or higher quality services or something like that, then that way they still give a value.
That makes a lot of sense. How have you, how do you currently market today? Like, how are people finding out about you?
Lately, I've hired I guess in February, I hired a social media manager, and we started an anniversary post because we've been in business for 20 years. We've had over 1,000 weddings. So every month on every day, we have at least 1 wedding that we can post that's somebody's anniversary. In so doing, I realized how many of these girls live right around the corner from me. They're still my friends on Facebook, that kind of thing, which has been a lot of fun. But that has really driven our business lately. I haven't, I've got update my website is right at the top of my list, but it's not at the top of her list, which is why it is not done. It would be done if it was on her list. But anyway, she's doing a great job marketing us that way. So we really push with the social media marketing. I am in the process of a website redesign.
So would you say, it sounds like word of mouth is pretty powerful?
It is.
Okay.
As we do not pay for any advertising. And we haven't.
My next question, you read my mind.
We paid for Wedding Wire way back in the beginning, and then Knot back in 2003. Wedding Wire used to be free, and then Knot was affordable. Let me put it that way, maybe $400 a month or something like that. So we did that for a few years, and then we just stopped advertising altogether because our website itself was driving enough traffic we were getting enough visitors. I just wasn't closing the sales. So that's when I learned, hey, I need to work on this a little bit.
Got it. Pardon the interruption. I wanted to take a moment and share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it is a professional association custom built for venue owners and operators. We felt like there was a lack of resources, community, education, and networking available specifically for our industry. And so we recently started this association, and it's been growing by the day. We would love to extend an invite to you, so please click the link in the description or wherever you're watching this video, and we would love to welcome you into the community. When you think about where you learned stuff about that, or like, again, if someone's listening to this and they're looking for ways to learn more about their venue, the surrounding area, where have you found education and information before?
I love the podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts in the car a lot more lately. So I'm really enjoying that. There's the Kristen Binford. There's the guy whose name I can't remember. He and his wife, Katie. Sam Jacobson. Sam and Katie. So he's been really, really helpful as far as listening to his podcasts and sales. And, you know, I mean, it's so clear. It's such a perfect process that it would be silly not to follow it, you know, as far as how you set up your website and get the people to you. And talking to them on the phone has made a huge difference, because I was like phone phobia. Let me just send them an email. It's so much easier. But talking to people on the phone, sometimes their concern is got nothing to do with your venue or anything. It might be their mother-in-law, or I have to have a funfetti cake or something. There might be something that would not be in any of my sales material. Well, you'll never know that if you don't talk to them. And they're not going to email you that. So you have to really get them on the phone and find out what's driving them. Then by the time they come here, they're sold. All they have to do is go, wow, this is better than it looked online. I want it.
Wendy, that is really powerful. That's a monster piece of advice, because I think with all of the automation and the tech that we have now, people do have some of that phone phobia, kind of like you said, right? Like it's like, oh, well, I could send an autoresponder email, or I could send a text. But you're totally right. Someone might not say, I really want a funfetti cake. But once you get them talking a little bit, they might say, well, gosh, my vision really, like, this is how I want it to look. And they'll describe that to you after you've developed a little bit of rapport with them.
Yeah. And I know that I can give it to them, but they don't know that. So, you know, they need to talk to me so they can get that. You know, I just assume people know a certain amount of thing when they come to me, and they don't. They don't know anything.
Yeah.
So sometimes they know anything. And sometimes they know exactly what they want.
Yeah. And that works. I'm curious, how many weddings on average are you doing per year? And do you like that number? Do you want to go more, less? Where are you kind of at?
We're 50-ish, and I like that number. Yeah, about 50. We had done as many as 80 earlier on, but we sort of cap it at 4 per weekend maximum. So if we do it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Monday. So, and we do elopements. So sometimes we can slip a little elopement in there, you know, even on the same day.
Yeah. Okay. And so is this during a particular season? Like if you're doing 50 weddings and you're doing 3-4 a weekend, are you doing these on only specific weekends throughout the year?
September and October are the biggest, then May, then April and June. This year we booked every weekend in July, but not until 2 months before the wedding. So we do get a lot of last minute bookings. We had one booking. I'm on a site called Eventspace, I think it's called. And we got a listing, and she was like, my wedding's in 2 weeks. The church just canceled us. Can we do it? And so I said, we can do it as long as you're bringing the catering, because I've got to go somewhere. And then her grandmother called me and said, please do the catering. So, you know, that was an extra $4,000 we weren't expecting in 2 weeks, you know, which was great. And for somebody just getting started in business, that would be like, no. So after COVID, you know, it did slow down a lot. And so we had to like gear back up again. And so it feels good.
I was just going to ask that. Did you feel, obviously there was this COVID slowdown, right? But then there was this kind of big crescendo of all of these postponed weddings. Did you kind of get that same feeling of after all of those postponed weddings had happened, that there was this lull? Or what was your experience like post-COVID?
Yeah, that's when I started listening to podcasts and finding out how to sell rather than just let people come by and buy, because they weren't just stopping in anymore. They weren't just like, hey, we want a wedding. So it used to be so easy, really. There was just, we were what they wanted, they came by and they bought. So it was very easy to do it that way. But then, now it's more of a, we need to tell people what we're doing and where we are and who we are and things. And people said, I forgot you were up there. You stopped talking to us. We forgot you're up there. So,
and what do you attribute that to? Or like, what do you think? Because I've heard similar feedback from other people in the industry, but what do you feel like that is from?
We're 12 miles north of the town, and we're in a very rural area for where we are. So if we don't let people know that we're here, like if we don't get on the other Facebook pages and say, hey, we're doing this weekend, or come by and do this or whatever, they forget that we even exist. They have no, unless they're driving by, why would they? So we have to just let them know we're still here. We do corporate parties and things as well as weddings. So if we do a Christmas party or something in December and we decorate and do all that kind of thing, the way to get the customers is say, hey, we're here. We've got, Christmas is great here. It's so old fashioned and beautiful, and lights and things.
So putting it out sounds like on social media, Facebook, but you have to have more of that intentionality around reaching out, because people aren't just showing up anymore.
Exactly. They don't just, and they talk to their friends, but only if you remind them that they got married here and things. You have to remind them, hey, happy anniversary. So going back and telling people, then their friends go, oh, I remember that wedding was so pretty, So and I've had a groom show up here with, at a wedding, a groom that canceled the wedding. And he showed up as a guest at somebody else's wedding, and he goes, is this the venue? He didn't even know it was the venue that he had booked for his own wedding. So he was at somebody else's wedding because they had canceled before they got married. So, but I go, I remember.
Hey there, thanks so much for watching or listening. I wanted to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events. Common Sense Events is my company that professionally manages and operates venues all across the United States, and we're looking to work with a couple more venues this year. If you own a venue in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, we are looking to work with you. Our company comes in and takes care of the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire all of the employees, we manage all the employees, and primarily our agreements are based off of revenue share models. So it's a very affordable way to have your venue professionally managed. And this is especially good if you're thinking about retiring, selling your venue, but maybe you don't want to sell the land, or you're looking for another management option than you currently have in place. If you're interested in this, please reach out by email at venues@cseventservices.com, or you can also click the link in the description of this video or podcast. We'd love to hear from you and look forward to seeing if there's a way for us to serve you. You're kind of living your own wedding experience in a way. As you think about the future of your business, maybe the way things have changed and maybe some of the things that haven't changed at all, what are you looking at in terms of succession? Like, is this a property that your family's ever going to sell? Is this something you're going to continue weddings on? Like, what are your plans for the future, and how are you evaluating those?
So back when all the real estate stuff was going crazy, and people were really heavily shopping for wedding venues, I did meet with someone several times and got a really strong offer on the venue, and my husband refused to leave. He just said, I'm going to die here. And so we made the commitment. So, and so I'm glad we did. My son said, I'm glad you kept it. I'm glad you didn't do that. But it is, we do feel a commitment to the ancestors of this place as well. The people who lived here and the people who cared for it prior to us being here. So, we are committed to them one way or another. And, I'm hoping my son, who said, I'm glad you kept the place, he's the one who's coming down with his wife and children. And I'm hoping that they will want to, develop it in the direction they want to go. We hope to have a wildflower garden in the future. We hope to do a lot more photography. We have a lake on the property. We have walking trails. My dream is chickens and a barrel train and things that attract children to the property. I love having kids around. So in weddings and kids go together, because most of our brides and grooms if they don't already have kids, they will very soon. So it's a real family location.
They're bringing family who have children, things like that. Yeah, we've definitely seen that. Wendy, I'm going to ask you in a couple seconds the question that I ask everyone, which is your favorite, your least favorite part about venue ownership. But I'm curious, do you have any words of wisdom for anyone who's considering opening a venue on their property, the property that they live at? Do you have any words of wisdom in terms of like how to set that up better to minimize the amount of like personal headache that you have when you're not only living there, but then you're running a business there as well?
I would say, if possible, don't live in the same building that you're using as the venue. If I were to do it over, I probably would have disassociated myself more in the beginning, and hired somebody then to do it. But it would be a different business, I guess, if I did that. And I love this. I really love doing it. So you say, what's the best and the worst part? It's the same thing. It's so much work, but I love doing the work. I love the joy. I hate when people are disappointed. I just hate it. So you lost it.
I lost my light. It's super interesting.
Right?
Oh yeah, we ended it. It's really interesting. The building recently put in these motion sensor lights, and for the past like 6 or 7 podcasts, something like that, this has been a thing. It's like turned off, and I'm just like, but
studio.
Say again?
Are you in a studio, like a building studio?
Yeah, it's an office building though, and they put in like the motion sensor lights. I think just probably save on the electricity, but the downside is occasionally it'll go off. But we can jump back into it. Okay, so you're saying that your least and most favorite part is the work that it takes to do the weddings, because you love it so much, but it's also pretty challenging.
And when 100 degrees outside and you got sweat like running down in your eyes, this is not very romantic. Not very glamorous.
Yes. Do you have people who help you do the setup and tear down of chairs, things like that?
Absolutely.
Where do you find those people? Like, how do you do the hiring? Are there some specific things that you found that help you be successful with that?
Usually it's through somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, or they come back. Like, we have kids who come back for the summer from college or whatever. We just had a guy who came back and he worked here for the summer, and then, he's leaving, starting school this week at college. Sometimes it's one of my employees is a former bride. She's still married. She got married here in, I think, 2007. I hope she doesn't watch this. It's either 2007 or 2009. She got married, and so she comes here and works occasionally. So we have a mix of young people and older people with experience. So, the young people tend to do the set up the tables and the chairs and the move things if it's raining kind of thing.
Got it. That makes sense. Well, Wendy, I really appreciate you, being willing to share your venue. I'm looking at it here, and it's gorgeous. You have the packages, you have some of the different things, and just the experience and the clear love that you pour into this is really evident. So, I want to just thank you for coming on the show today and sharing the story of 1812 Hitching Post. And if there's, a way that people can connect with you, what's the best way? Is it social media? Is it through the phone, email? What's the best way to connect?
I like email. I love email. But again, that's because I have phone phobia, but I will I will talk to people. I do talk to people all the time, and I like talking to people in person. It's just, I don't know. It must be something about the phone. As much as we love it, we hate it, so I do love email. And I usually answer people within 24 hours. So I try to pride myself on answering people right away and giving them a personal answer. If somebody races to me and says, how much is a wedding? That takes a phone call, because we have all kinds of weddings. So
yeah, it's hard to unpack. There's not one price. Well, what do you want? And yeah, so Makes total sense. Well, it looks like the right email is 1812hp@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
We made it short and easy so that people can find us real quick and not have to type too much.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Well, Wendy, thanks again for coming on the show. This has been really fun to hear about your venue here in North Carolina. And I'm looking forward to people reaching out to you and learning more about your space.
Great. I'm going to watch more shows. Thank you.